Just trying to see how many different types of restaurants carry chicken fingers. Edit. My friends, do not insult people for eating chicken fingers. Just because your enlightened brain has become too good for chicken fingers does not mean that you need to insult those of us who like to eat fried chicken when we go out. Edit 2. Look, everyone, I am just trying to ask a simple question about chicken fingers. If you cannot understand that people sometimes eat them, then go back to the fine dining and let us enjoy our discussion in peace. Then you can go back to insulting us lesser adults and Philistines for simply liking certain foods. I do not even order them, and I feel like I need to say something to you judgmental people. Edit 3. Sorry, everyone. Apparently I speak poorly. If you have been offended by the content of this post, then I sincerely apologize for my behavior. Of course, people should never order chicken fingers over the age of 8, and they definitely should not call them fingers. I promise I will be better next time, and your feelings regarding what people consume in their free time will be held with a higher level of respect. After all, you deserve it. You holier-than-thou, poultry-shaming bunch of peasants. Story 1. When I played college soccer, our team took a trip to Germany for 2 weeks. One of my teammates ate nothing but chicken tenders and cheese pizza the entire time. I didn't find German food to be all that different from American food, but this kid refused to try anything. The same person then went on a semester at sea and did the exact same thing. It blew my mind. Story 2. There used to be a Greek place near us that had them. Their menu was like traditional Greek foods, breakfast items, and chicken fingers. All of it was good. They were bought out last year. It's still a Greek place, but their food is mediocre now and they are trying too hard to be upscale. Story 3. I know it is not really that exotic, but it is exotic where I am from. I went to an Indian restaurant with a group of friends and one girl ordered chicken fingers, at least the closest thing they had. She got a bit upset when they said they did not have any ketchup, so they made her some out of watered-down tomato paste. Story 4. Tangentially, when we were younger, my sister would only ever want grilled cheese when eating out at places. It's a joke among my family now, and she stopped when she was maybe 10. But it was surprising what places would just make you a grilled cheese if you just asked for it. I think we even got it at Red Lobster, an American seafood chain. Story 5. At the little restaurant beside a motel named Motel Hello in California, there were the tastiest fingers I ever had. Edit. Obviously, I have some kindred spirits here who have seen the movie. Story 6. So here's the thing about me. I grew up with my grandmother as my primary caretaker. She cooked whatever I wanted or I cooked for myself. What's a 12-year-old going to cook on their own? Whatever comes out of a can, a box, or a freezer bag. I developed quite a love for fried chicken in all its forms. Chicken nuggets, strips, fingers, tenders, planks, fillets, stars, dinosaurs, letters, rings, sticks, patties, fries, bites, chunks, popcorn, wings, drumsticks, breasts and thighs. You bread it and you deep fry it, I'm probably going to eat it. Until I hit my 30s, it pretty much didn't matter what restaurant you were going to take me to. If they had fried chicken on their menu, even on their kids' menu, it went in my mouth. And I learned something very important that I have had legitimate chefs confirm. The chicken fingers are a great barometer of the rest of the menu. Ultimately, chicken fingers are easy. Buy them by the case, stick them in the freezer, toss them in the deep fryer, done and done. But if a restaurant actually takes care with their boneless fried chicken, if they marinate them, hand-cut them, hand-bread or batter them, it's fresh and not frozen chicken, that's a good sign that they take care with the rest of their menu. To actually answer your question, there's a fairly nice Greek restaurant in Chattanooga called the Acropolis that has fantastic chicken fingers. J. Alexander's, the steakhouse, also has really great chicken fingers. Story 7. I did get fried chicken from a high-end steakhouse, where the total bill for 4 people was over $700. It was a $60 item and the most expensive non-steak item on the menu. We had it as the appetizer for the table. It was amazing, and if I could afford it again, I would do it without question. Story 8. So, I'm a bit of a world traveler, and one thing I've learned early on in my travels is that everyone all over the world loves fried chicken. So, I make it a point to try the local flavor in every country I visit. Probably the most exotic place I've had fried chicken was under a bridge in Seoul. Story 9. So I know it's not chicken fingers, but it made me think of this story from when I was 8. I grew up in Vegas, and my parents would gamble all the time. I don't know if it's a local thing, but since they would gamble at the casinos, they would receive coupons and discounts through the mail, presumably to get them to come back and spend more. Well, this particular coupon came in called the Golden Ticket from a casino downtown. Basically, you go to their best restaurant, and a party of up to 5 people could order any one menu item for free. Me being the only one to speak English in a Mexican household, I ordered for the whole family. I remember my mom ordering steak, my grandma lobster, just nice things to eat. So it came to be my turn, and I'm in the sandwich section of the menu, and a grilled cheese sounds really good. I knew my mom would be upset if I got a grilled cheese using that coupon, but it sounded really good. So, discreetly, I asked the waiter for the grilled cheese. She gives me this face and says, "Are you sure?" Of course, I nod my head yes. And she looks at me and my mom and says, "Well, okay." She and the other waiters come back with a feast of fancy food, and one small plate had my grilled cheese on it. My mom was mad. "Why would you buy something so simple that we can make at home that will taste the exact same?" Anytime I go to upscale restaurants or eat a grilled cheese, I tell the story. Story 10. This high-end buffet restaurant called Vikings here in the Philippines is known for how pricey it is per person. My aunt was visiting a couple of years ago, and she wanted to try the restaurant. Long story short, the first thing I ate were the deep-fried chicken tenders and rice along with ketchup. I did eventually try the other dishes, though. There was no way I was going to waste my aunt's money on food I have access to almost every day. Story 11. I got a chicken nugget at Momofuku Ko, a Michelin 2-star restaurant. I had told them that one of my favorite restaurants in New York was the Nugget Spot, but the waitstaff hadn't heard of it. So they made me a chicken nugget for free, made from a chicken oyster. Story 12. Went to a fancy Cantonese restaurant in New York City recently that served something similar to chicken fingers, just called them something else. It was a prix-fixe type menu, so I didn't specifically order it, but it came with the meal. Damn good if I do say so. Story 13. Finally, a thread where my autism is applicable. So, I'm in Rome, and largely as part of the group I was with, I ended up at this food experience with a fixed menu prepared by a master chef. This was the kind of place you can only get into by invitation, apparently. The experience involved several dozen different small tasters. All of them were great, but none really appealed to me. However, their beer selection was excellent, so I indulged in that. After 2 hours of this, with everyone prattling on about how brave the various food combinations were, I just casually laughed along with whatever nonsense people were spouting. Then one of the waiters approached me. He explained that the chef had noticed I hadn't eaten much and wondered if I had any critique to offer. This guy was fairly discreet, but I could feel several eyes glance at me as I desperately tried to find a way not to insult either him or the chef. Eventually, I blurted out something about wanting to savor the taste, and the waiter gave me a look that was just a mix of pity and annoyance. Either way, he asked which dish I enjoyed the most, and I mentioned that I thought the chicken liver parfait was rather nice because I generally like chicken. He nodded and left. With this exchange fresh in my mind, I was eager to get out, but apparently, dessert was still to be served when the chef has finished the pastries. So everyone continued to sit around. Then, after a few minutes, out came a waiter with a plate, and everyone murmured excitedly as she made her way around the table, to me. With great spectacle, she placed the plate in front of me. Chicken nuggets in a garlic tempura batter with some tomato puree on the side. Probably the best chicken nuggets I've ever had, but I still cringed slightly at the feeling of being stared at in mixed shock and amusement by a room full of people who were completely wrapped up in how exclusive this place was and how high-class the chef was. Story 14. I'm in Atlanta, and I've noticed here that the trick that every restaurant does is they offer chicken and waffles. Now, don't get me wrong, chicken and waffles is a delicious pairing that is classic Georgia, but that's not the reason restaurants offer it. It's always just an excuse to sneak chicken tenders on the menu in a slightly more adult fashion. Story 15. There is a local Australian restaurant and bar which has really good steaks and such. One of the starters is basically just chicken fingers with sriracha sauce. Absolutely delicious. Story 16. There is this really nice, authentic German restaurant about an hour from my place. My little brother was overwhelmed by the menu, so he ordered the most dry, small, unappetizing chicken fingers I have ever seen. Story 17. Dinner with some out-of-town coworkers. We were allowed to expense it, so we picked a pricey Japanese sushi joint. One of the guys got chicken fingers and fries off the kids' menu. The rest of us all put away about $40 to $50 worth of sushi each. Story 18. It is interesting to see how popular chicken fingers seem to be in other countries. I have only eaten them twice with a mustard and honey sauce to dip them in a place that served American fast food. They were nice. Story 19. Serial Killer Cafe in London. This place is known for serving really exotic cereals. I was there yesterday and ordered the chicken tenders. They were some of the best I have ever had. The cornflake tenders are the standard, but you can even get them with Fruity Pebbles if you are feeling adventurous. Story 20. I worked at a really fancy Italian restaurant, and a child literally ordered chicken fingers. One guy had to go across the street to the grocery store to buy them. Story 21. My wife is a super picky eater. We went to a 5-star sushi spot in Manhattan, the kind that makes you dress up. So after I take my suit jacket off, we sit down. The waiter dropped off the menu, and I figured my wife would order some teriyaki chicken. I was surprised when she asked for chicken fingers, but not half as surprised when they said, "No problem." Story 22. Not exotic, but eccentric. My brother's friend ordered chicken fingers at every meal in Disney World a few years ago. We were there for 8 days and we were in our 20s. Story 23. Not chicken fingers, but fish fingers. A very common snack in the United Kingdom. Claridge's, a hotel in Mayfair, London, where I'm having a small wedding dinner. We've requested fish finger sandwiches for my little nephew. They didn't bat an eyelid and said that's fine. Story 24. How pretentious and self-absorbed do you have to be to think you're better than someone because they eat chicken fingers? No one cares about you or the non-genetically modified organism, organic food you eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Story 25. Went to a concert at the House of Blues that had a bar where you could order drinks and basic bar foods. $8.99 for 5 huge tenders and fries with 4 house-made barbecue sauces. Best tenders I have ever had, and I still think about them. Story 26. I'll eat chicken tenders until I'm old and moldy. Also, my friends always joke that there's always tenders on every menu because I'm a picky eater. I had some awesome ones at this local restaurant in Belmont, North Carolina. Story 27. At a semi-fancy restaurant at a fancy mall near me in Metro Detroit. Most people would get steaks or seafood meals, but their chicken tenders and fries were unreal. They were quite popular with the regulars. Still haven't had chicken fingers that good. Story 28. Not exotic, but if you want the best chicken fingers in Toronto, you have to go to the European Deli in the basement of St. Lawrence Market. Try the lax. Story 29. I will quite often order cheeseburgers at Mexican restaurants. They are usually cheaper than if I went to a place where people normally buy burgers and just as good. Story 30. One of the bars at Secret Beach on Ambergris Cay, Belize, has one of the best chicken fingers I have ever had, which was surprising because the bar itself looked sort of janky. Story 31. I have gone to just about every restaurant and ordered chicken fingers. The most exotic restaurant I've ordered them from was probably a Portuguese restaurant, although around where I live it's not super exotic. My personal favorite is the ones at Longhorn Steakhouse. Story 32. TV chef Alton Brown tells a story at his live show about how his daughter, then a tween, didn't care that he was a popular cook on television. She never wanted him to cook anything interesting or good for her, and she discovered that she could really irritate him by asking for chicken fingers. He begrudgingly made them because he's a dad, but he didn't like it. One day, she's got a birthday coming up, going to have some friends over, and she finally asks him if he'll cook for the party dinner for half a dozen girls. He's over the moon at first, and pitches some suggestions, and she says, "Can you make chicken fingers?" "Yes," he says, and he cooks, and sets a beautiful table, and brings out a dish covered in a big metal cloche. You know, the big, somewhat bell-shaped covers for the dish, and sets up the big reveal. Voila! And he made chicken feet. The girls all shrieked, and he had a fine laugh, and that's all we know because the audience laughs and he moves on to his next bit. Chicken feet are actually pretty good. It's the texture that needs acquiring. Next time you go get dim sum, get some chicken feet. It will cost you very little to try them. Story 33. I was at Roy's, which is a super fancy Hawaiian restaurant. My friend took me, thinking it was some poke hole in the wall. Nope, it was very fancy. Made me feel very out of place wearing my Adidas tracksuit. I decided to embrace the chaos and order chicken fingers, and she asked for the coloring sheet and asked the waiters for help on the crossword. They couldn't help, so they called the manager over. The manager couldn't help, so they called the newly christened head chef over. It was a very slow night. The head chef was flirting very much with my friend. It was one of the most surreal dinners I've ever had. I know it smells strongly of that happened, and sometimes even I wonder if it was all a fever dream, but it wasn't. My friend keeps confirming all of it. Story 34. I still will sometimes stop at Red Lobster for chicken fingers and fries when I do not want to spend a ton of money since you still get those heavenly biscuits. Story 35. I went to an office Christmas party where they rented out this expensive golf course, and they had a 5-course meal spread on a table you can eat from, music, etc. Everyone was dressed fancy as anything. So we're eating and the food is all right, I suppose. It's like adult food, and the owner's son comes in, my friend, and sees the kids have chicken fingers on their menu. No joke. This guy just walks up to them and tells them to give us 3 orders. Me, my brother, and him, along with the food we had, small plates, and they go out of their way to make this kid's order for us. This place is really expensive, and renting it probably cost an amount as well as catering, but the owner's son, my boss's son, demanded chicken fingers.